All right. So we both interviewed two people who are Christian or they believe in God, but they don't go to church. So in your interviews, who did you interview?
I interviewed my mom and then my aunt as well. I live with my mom, so it was easy to interview her. And then I had to go over to Franklin because that's where my aunt lives, and I interviewed her.
Oh, that's nice. You gotta do it like in person with your aunt.
Yeah.
Awesome. I did it both. Like I did one on a video call and I did one in person. I interviewed a friend of mine and then I interviewed my sister, which was very interesting. Before I did the interview, I didn't even know that she was still Catholic, so that was a nice surprise. But yeah.
You live with your sister?
I do. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Since I commute, I'm with my mom and sister. But yeah, so that was really interesting.
Yeah.
So like in your interview, what sort of like happened or what did you learn?
So I found out a lot of things that I did not know, especially from my mom. Living and growing up with her, there's things I didn't know. I didn't really know where she stood on her beliefs and her faith, and so that was very interesting for me to see. It was very eye-opening, and the same thing with my aunt. It was just very eye-opening. I know there was like some touchy, like, I guess questions I asked that it was just like, how do I ask this without like trespassing a certain line?
I totally agree.
What about you?
Oh yeah, mine was also interesting. It was fun hearing like my friend's perspective, but my sister, just kind of like with your mom, was like the one that really surprised me. Again, I didn't really know her beliefs either. She even said like in her interview, she doesn't like to talk about them. So I just learned a lot from her. I think it was just really cool that we were able to like learn more about our own families and stuff. Since that's like people we live with, but we aren't super sure about everything. So for the two people you interviewed, what exactly were their reasons for not going to church?
So, I'm not going to say who it was, but for one of the persons that I interviewed, their reason for not going to church anymore was just because of an incident that had happened, and so they just did not feel comfortable going back to that place or even going to a new church just because of just that anxiety that she had, like, oh, it might happen again. So that's her reason for not going. And the other person, she just kind of fell out of it. She just grew, and she just didn't feel like she needed to go in order to strengthen her relationship with God like that. She figured out that she could do that at home in her own space.
Yeah, that's exactly what one of my friends said. I wrote down what he said specifically, but he said that he just saw church as going to celebrate one sacrament, and he was like, I can do that in so many other ways. He's like, I just don't see it necessary to go every Sunday for one sacrament. And then my sister, she had two reasons. The first one, she said that she was forced as a child to go to church, and I'm like, come on. I was like, come on. We both did go to Catholic school, and she kind of fell out of it more due to that. My Catholic school was pretty rigorous. We had to go 3 times a week, and that's not including Sundays. So 4 times we had to do the hour-long church. So I did understand that part. But she also said that she saw the church as just a visual representation of Christ, and she was like, I don't need that. She's like, I know Christ is around without having to physically go and see. She kind of thought it was just like a play, kind of, or just showing that. So that was her big reason. Oh yeah, how? So how did your two people nurture their faith without Christ, if they did?
So one of my people, they said that they basically what they do is something they would do at church, but in their own private area where they just they pray, they sit down, and they talk to God.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, without having to be it's nice to have a nice community around you, but for this person, she just didn't. She doesn't need that, and from what she has learned, she knows that she doesn't need that. That she can just sit down in her private area and just connect with God like that.
That's so nice. It becomes so much more intimate than a church experience. Because especially if you're in a large Catholic church, you're just in a room with maybe 100, 200 people. So that's really cool that she's able to find an intimate relationship.
And the other person also said the same thing. Just creating that small space, that small area, just dedicated to him is a way to build that relationship. Even though they may not go to church, they still have that ability to build that relationship with
That's
him.
So nice. I love that. My two people said 2 different things. My friend actually said he's a physics major, and he said that's how he kind of discovers Christ.
Really?
I thought this was so cool.
Yeah.
He said in high school he was actually agnostic, but then in college he's the more I learned about physics, the more I was like, there has to be a God.
Yeah.
Which I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That the more he learns about science, the more he's like, I deepen my relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
And then my sister, she said that she usually finds Christ through volunteer work, and just people in general, which I thought was nice.
Yeah.
She's still going to a Catholic high school, so all of those are like Catholic already, which I thought was just really, really cool. And one thing that she mentioned, that she said one of the reasons she didn't like church was the people. She was like, she said wherever she goes, she just felt like she was being judged. She said that she had like a very vivid memory as a child. She dyed her hair green and it wouldn't come out. And she's like, my first thought was, what are the people at church going to think? I was like, I can see that. But then, when I asked her how she nurtures her faith, she said, it's like Catholics, like people. I was like, oh, so you like both? And she's like, well, it depends. So I thought that was kind of interesting, you know? That it was like, the thing that scared her away was the community. But then also the way she deepens it is the community.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was cool.
That's understandable, though.
Yeah, totally.
How do you feel about what they said? Because I know they had two different perspectives.
Oh, yeah.
Two different things. How do you feel about
So for my friend, I would he was another one where I thought he was Catholic, but I wasn't entirely sure.
Yeah.
So I thought that his feelings, just sort of relating it back to science, was really interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like whenever I'm in science class, I sort of have the opposite reaction. Like I try to, piece it together with theology, but I feel like most people use science to go against it. So it was just really cool to see someone, especially with like a physics major, finding Christ through that. And then for my sister, I was just sort of like amazed at that. I really did not think she cared that much about the faith. But just hearing her talk about, like how important it is to be around Catholic people. One question I asked her, I said, do you want like a Catholic boyfriend? She said, absolutely. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I want someone that'll bring me closer to God. So that was just really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
How about your two people?
More specifically with like my aunt, who I don't really talk to, she's just like I said in the beginning, it was just very eye-opening because I didn't understand like where she stood on that kind of thing. I know for me, I feel like in some way it kind of strengthened my relationship with her because I know we feel like we're on the same page, even though, because I kind of relate to both of them, where like I don't go to church like as much as I should, as much as I want to. I have that connection with her now, and now I can feel like, oh, I know it might be like difficult for you. We could both go together and just create our own little community, and I feel like that's like made our relationship a little stronger just because I know we're not as close as we used to be. And it's the same with my mom. It's like created this relationship with us, stronger bond and everything. We connect like on a deeper level than before just because like I said, I didn't understand where like she stood on
that's so nice. Yeah, I feel like I kind of also have a similar relationship with my parents. Like I like to say I'm a church goer, I go every Sunday. But if my parents aren't going, I'm not going. And I should probably change that. Because then I'm still kind of just going through obligation. I'm like, well, there's a ride. I'm going to go. My parents are going. So I think it's really nice that you're able to, like, find that bond with your parents, even without that obligation behind it. I just think that's, like, really cool. What's your time? I'm just checking. Okay, cool. 8 minutes. So do you think that everyone should go to church, or all Catholics?
I feel like, I believe that it's up to them and what they see fit. Because I know, we need to make time in our schedules to just like I don't know how to say it.
I know what you mean.
But it's just I know it's hard to find time in our busy schedule, especially as adults. We get busier, we get more responsibilities. But I feel like it's up to them to decide if they can create that same environment in their own home, in their own place, and say go for it. Not everyone has to go, but it would be nice to at least show up like 2 times a month. I think
the environment part is really important.
Definitely.
Because for a lot of people, they might go every Sunday, but they might get nothing out of it. Like, I know I've definitely had Sundays where I'm there, and then I'm like, I did it, I'm good, and I just zone out for an hour.
Yeah.
Whereas someone that's not going to church, but they spend that hour praying on their own, might get way more out of it than I would.
That's definitely something that, like, I can relate to with, like, my younger sister, who's in 5th grade. She will go because of, like, she has to go, but she'll get nothing out of it.
Exactly.
So I feel like when she's older, or maybe she'll like, I don't know how to say it.
Like appreciate it more?
Yeah, basically.
I totally get that. Yeah, I'm totally in agreement as well. like, since I did grow up in a Catholic church, like, Catholic school system, we were always told, like, oh, if you miss a Sunday, you're going to go to hell. And I'm like, that seems a little intense. I'm like, we learn a lot about how God is, like, forgiving and nurturing, and I'm like, I just don't think he would slam down the hammer on that for, like, one offense, you know? One issue that, like, I've been Catholic all my life, but one issue I've always had is sort of how strict they are on, like, sins and skipping masses, and they're like, if you skip a mass, you can't get communion until you confess. And I've always just kind of been like, it's just so hateful in a way, or just, like, guilt-driven. So I do think that, like, I don't think it's necessary for every person. If you're not getting anything out of it, but you can find it through other ways, I definitely think you should do that. And then, I kind of mentioned this, but how do you think the church could make the church, like, more hospitable, or, like, the community?
I just feel like a big thing that we talked about is just, like, the environment, making people feel welcome in there, just because it is a sacred place, and it's, like, you just have to feel like you're at home, not somewhere where, like, you are obligated to go.
That's so true.
Especially, another thing on top of that is, like, just having people who are, like, I don't know. You go ahead.
Yeah, you're good. I was going to say the same thing. It matters a lot about just the community itself.
Yes.
I'm not going to get, like, too political, but obviously, like, the church has had, like, a run-in with, like, LGBT and, like, other groups, and we even had, like, my church, or not my church, a church next to mine even had, like, an issue with, like, the Black Lives Matter movement, and I just feel like if there wasn't all these, like, hateful feelings towards specific groups, that are, like, especially minority groups, that would make the church way more hospitable, even for people that, like, don't belong to those, because it just hurts to read about, like, all this love, and then see the church be like, these people aren't welcome, and if you do this, you can't get communion, and So I do think a lot of it is just sort of making an environment where people can just be loving and accepting and all of that, and it doesn't feel so hoity-toity or anything like that, you know?
I think, let's see.
I know, I think that's it. So any, like, conclusive thoughts? Mine definitely would be, I think that these conversations, while they were awkward to start, they were very necessary. I feel like especially since we both talked to family members. My sister, like, when I was talking to her, she's looking at Catholic colleges, and I was like, why do you want to be in Catholic environments? And she's like, because I don't like to talk religion, and if I'm in somewhere where everyone's religious, nobody asks me about it. So I think just having these conversations with family members especially is super important. And I think it was kind of nice that we had, like, the backup of, oh, this is for an assignment, like, I have to do it, sorry. Because then it got us to ask, like, the more hard-hitting questions. So what did you think?
I thought, like you said, it was awkward at first. It was just, like tiptoeing around these questions, just making sure that they're okay with being asked these questions. But I feel like I said in the beginning, it literally helped strengthen my relationship with both these people.
Same.
It's like, I'm so thankful for this.
I am too. I know. It was just kind of nice to be, like, vulnerable with your friends and family for a second. All right. So I think that kind of concludes it. All right.